Hello again. It's our 15th reflection for Lent today, and we are at the end of the Gospel of John, so John's account of the life of Jesus. So this is after most of the stuff has happened. So Jesus has been crucified, he's been raised from the dead, and then the disciples had been having breakfast, I think on the beach, and this is where we begin. So John chapter 21, verses 15 to 19. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and to go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." So that's the passage. Perhaps the first thing to clarify is the use of names. So right from the beginning, we've got Simon, Peter, John, Simon, Peter, Simon, son of John. Can be a bit confusing. But as far as I understand it, Simon, or Simon, son of John, was Simon's original name. So that is his name, Simon. But Jesus, when he meets him sort of very early on in the story, Jesus gives him a new name, which is Peter. I think that might have come into one of the other reflections a few days ago. So Simon is also known as Simon Peter. Peter is the new name that Jesus gives him. And Peter means rock, and this is a reference to the fact that Jesus is predicting that Peter will become the rock on which Jesus would build the church. So essentially all of these names refer to the same disciple that this story is centred around. So we'll call him Peter to make things simple. And what's going on with these three repeated questions that Jesus asks him, do you love me? Asking him 3 times. Well, this story, like I said, it takes place after the crucifixion and after Jesus has been raised from the dead. But we probably need to rewind a little bit to make sense of what's going on. So you may know the story of Peter's denial earlier in the account. So at the Last Supper, so this is the Last Supper that Jesus and his disciples had together before he was crucified, there's this dialogue that happens between them. So Jesus starts off by saying, "Where I'm going, you cannot come." So he's talking to all of his disciples, and he then gives them the command to love each other as he has loved them. And then Peter asks, "Well, where are you going?" Jesus says, "Where I'm going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later." Peter replies, "Well, why can't I follow now? I will lay down my life for you." And then Jesus says, "Will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly I tell you, before the cock crows, you will disown me 3 times. That's kind of cold coming from Jesus. But just as Jesus predicted, Peter denies that he knows him 3 times leading up to his crucifixion. And you can imagine the guilt and the shame that Peter must have felt after the crucifixion, even after the resurrection. There must have been a sort of really mixed emotions that he was sort of dealing with. And Jesus asking this same question of Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 times in the passage that we just read, it kind of mirrors the 3 denials of Peter. It's a process of healing for Peter. It's sort of an undoing of those denials. And it's definitely a commission on Peter's life to go where he couldn't go before. Ultimately to lay down his life for Jesus. And history sort of suggests that Peter lived into a fairly old age, so probably mid to late 60s, and also was crucified similarly to Jesus. And the last bit of the reading points to the fact that Jesus' death glorified God, as would Peter's death. So that last bit of the passage. He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. And so what does all this stuff mean for us? I think there are kind of 2 things that I take away from this. The first one is Jesus linking the concept of love with the concept of action. So Peter loves Jesus, therefore he's asked to put his love into action by caring for his sheep. The two come like right slap bang next to each other, and that happens 3 times. So there's something important about that. But why? What's the action about? It's not about making us feel good about ourselves. It's about bringing glory to God. So we love God. He calls us to put that love into action in order to glorify him. And it goes back to that commission of Jesus, that new commandment that he gives his disciples to love each other as he has loved them. So it all links together really nicely. And then the other thing I think we can take away is that there's nothing that can stand between us and God that can't be dealt with. We can always start again. We can always receive forgiveness. So my encouragement for you today is maybe take a bit of time to think about something that's standing between you and someone that you love. Do you need to ask for forgiveness for something? Or do you need to forgive something? Or is there just an act of love that you haven't done that perhaps you should in response to this passage? So that's it. As always, let's end with a little prayer and we can get on with our days. Jesus, thank you for this revelation that we can be forgiven, that we can start again. Thank you for showing us that love must be put into action. And we ask you to show us today how to do that. Who is it that you want us to reach out to? Who is it that you want us to love? And what do we need to do about that? Amen. Okay. Hopefully see you tomorrow.